Hi, JD.
Hello, how are you today?
We are great. We're having just a ball together,
Oh,
loving on
good,
each
good.
other, caring on each other. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, JD. I was just about
Absolutely.
and just speak and give you some time to log on. So it's awesome that you're here, right? All right.
Perfect.
So, my viewers, we have here with us Mr. J.D. Gibson himself, and I'm going to just give you a little bit about him and what he's about. J.D. graduated from the University of Oklahoma, and he has over 20 years experience in the corporate retail industry. He is the CEO and founder of Lend a Hand for Land and a managing partner in several e-commerce ventures. He has extensive education and experience in creative finance and is passionate about helping people put their money to work. So if you have a lot of money out there, this is the man to guide you into how to invest and how to put it to work for you. All right. Welcome, JD. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here once again. A warm Caribbean welcome to you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Who is the man behind the name J.D. Gibson? What is your story?
Oh, and that's a long one. It would take probably the whole day for that one. But you know, probably the quick answer is someone that's been in a lot of people's shoes. Hopefully that would be watching. Grew up blue collar. Put myself through school, and actually a pharmacist by profession through OU or Oklahoma University. So that was my formal degree. But a lot of learning came after that. Honestly, came after learning that or figuring out that financial education wasn't there. That we're not taught in school, of course. So once I went through some struggles, hit bankruptcy, which was not fun and always embarrassing to admit. Of course, that's part of the story now. So I've been in the struggle. I've seen it, and I had to make those adjustments, learn how to get myself out of there, and figure out how I could set myself up for the future and honestly build a legacy. So long story there. Of course, I share that in my book, as well as in the Middle Class Mindset Escape Plan. Talks about a lot of my story and the struggles I went through, but then the adjustments too. So that's kind of that in a small little bit.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, JD, for sharing.
Sure.
Based upon how we are socialized, JD, we have this tendency to say we're working for retirement. Yes, and that's when we want to start living life. Okay, so we often forget to live life now, in the here and now, and in the present. What advice would you give to those who are of that mindset?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is such a common mindset. As we work, we save, and then we spend those last few years in actually enjoying life. And that was part of my epiphany, that I realized that I didn't want to be at that point in time. Not to mention, when I started doing more financial education and learning about investments and how I would be set up at that time to save my retirement, my golden years, that was a big eye opening. 401k is going to teach a lot about investment vehicles and what are some of the better strategies, and kind of open eyes up about some of the things that we hear in just mainstream, right? And yeah, so that's one of those things where the quicker that you start taking control of your life, basically. And what I mean by that is, with my formal education, I thought I was finished. I'd explained this to you before. I thought I was finished, but that was the biggest mistake I'd made. Honestly, that bankruptcy was what set me up for the most success. That was a pivotal moment in time, and that's where I learned that what, I've got to make some things different. Start looking at finances, getting out of that consumer mindset. Once I started figuring that out, which came with a lot of reading, and that's probably the main point in my book, is you have to read. If you do not continue to read after your education, then unfortunately you're going to be stuck in that rat race. So it's all about just education, always improving yourself, always looking for that best version. I preach that all the time. You cannot stop if you want to achieve great things. Not to mention, that's what keeps our life exciting, and that's where the true enjoyment of life is when you're continuously learning and enjoying the journey. So that's probably my best input on that one.
Yes, awesome. Read, people. You got the message. Read. Don't stop. Okay. People have a tendency, JD, to live above their means, buying things they don't need with money they don't have. This incurs a lot of debt. Could you break down for us why those persons probably are in debt, money management wise? And
Yeah,
tell us
absolutely.
we can use to get out of it if it is we are faced as in such situation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is, again, that is what I call that consumer mindset. And it's so easy, especially here in the States, to get caught up in that. Then that is a whole class on its own, really. And again, it comes back to education, learning, how to control finances, one, and the mindset shift. I mean, again, that's huge. That is, and that involves really your inner circle. So a whole lot goes into, what you hear from family members. The wealthier are evil. So many of those phrases that you guys have heard about, that money grows on trees. It goes on and on and on and on, right? So that unfortunately imprints in our head, certain ways that we look at money, how we look at money. And that's the downfall. So it's not until you start, opening your eyes up, again, reading, understanding, how the wealthy become wealthy. How do they do things? It's not kept from any of us. You can learn that and you can perform the same practices as well. So it's really financial education. It's not until you learn, what you're doing and how the banking system works that you can start correcting some of those things. Never really like to say living, below or above your means, and there's a phrase I love that's, it's not that, I don't like to ever hear my kids say, I can't afford it, or because I always heard that with my family or my dad, especially, is, I can't afford it. We can't afford it. Well, rephrase that a little bit and change it to how can we afford it? So that means we start educating ourselves. We don't just go out and slap stuff on credit cards and just getting the crazy amounts of debt, but we start figuring out, okay, what do I need to do to leverage my money? How can I start investing? How can I control those finances? But again, that comes with education, getting in the right circles, going to conferences, doing things like this, and listening to people that have been there and done that. So it's an education thing, and anybody can learn it. It's just be willing to draw that line in the sand and do it.
Okay, awesome. So it's an education thing. Be open, yes, definitely, to be educated.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is said that in order for change to come, JD, we first have to make a mental shift. This can be very difficult, of course, especially with all the bad things or the negative stuff that we were faced with, probably from childhood coming up. Right? Could you tell us ways in which you personally conquer fear and probably the voice that seems to present itself in your life and try to hold you back so that you don't get
back? And that's going to the first part of that. That's, again, what we brought up, in that first, years of life where we're so impressionable, and that's where a lot of the imprinting happens. So you have to, one, step outside, know that that's happened, start understanding that all of these voices that you're hearing from one inner and outer, meaning your family, friends, people are close to you, they grew up probably with the same beliefs and same messages. So it just passes on. So it's not until you can kind of start self-realizing that is happening, and then start making those adjustments that you're not falling in that same trend. So that's kind of the first part of that. And then you're going to have to repeat to me the second part of that. It's really just getting your circle correct and getting around the right people. Sometimes you have to, again, it's not that you ever want to disconnect with family. There are loved ones, but sometimes you have to be careful on how much you're listening to their advice, and be willing to kind of go to another, part of the family, part of the friends, find those new circles that have those like-minded types of behaviors. It's crucial. Now that second part, I think, what was the second part of that question? Because I got to get off track.
Just to give us some strategies involved in manage our mind so that we don't get our breakthrough. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and some of my personal things were, as I started diving into, of course, literature and following some of these other individuals with self-development, is, a ritual. I'm really firm believer in building habits, because these things, they take time. You have to develop the habits, so you got to start somewhere. Even if you break, you start reading, you're doing your self-development stuff each day. You kind of get off of it, but you work back. You step outside. You know that's happening, right? And then you're not going to change unless we get back to our rituals. And then those rituals can be, things like visualization. Of course, I do a practice of several things, which is reading, visualizing, doing affirmations. And now some people think that's goofy, but you'll read in my book that was one of the big things that really made a change in my life, is just really talking to myself. And I would do it in front of a mirror, and I would say some of the things that would, make some people think that's kind of cuckoo, but I'm one that's lived it, and I've seen that it happen. I set certain goals, and I know monetary things are not always the best thing to be going for, but there are measurable goals a lot of times. So, I do teach that's not what creates happiness, but you're still trying to create these goals. And affirmations every day, I still do them. Maybe I don't hit them every day, but it's pretty often during the week. I have to, because I'm always trying to move different levels. So I have to look at myself and I have to say it out loud. And after a while, that starts becoming part of me. It becomes part of my identity and what I want to achieve. So there's several steps. Again, I could go on for hours, in a regular lecture talking about all these processes that I think work and I think are proven. But yeah, that's kind of where I'll leave it at. There's just so many things that you need to start building into your habits each day.
Yes, awesome. Affirmation works, people. I practice it, and every time I do it, I'm so empowered. I think I can take over the world when I speak to myself. I say, Carrie, yes, I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am just the I am. What follows your I am? You have to be mindful of that. Yeah. Is it something
Absolutely.
negative or something positive? What follows your I am? JD, people think that they're living life due to their material accomplishments. Sometimes you find that they are missing something, right? But they themselves often don't even know what it is. All right. What are some of the things or components you could use or to give to them that says to them that, listen, this is how you're really living your life, and you're living life to the fullest?
Yeah, that's a good one too. And I think I touched a little bit on that. The money thing, the monetary, those are goals I think we learn in our, early in our self-development as we start reaching, say higher income. But then you quickly learn, or you should, if you haven't, because if not, you're going to leave a very unhappy and unfulfilled life. Is, the money is great, but it's really until you start focusing more on kind of how you're developing yourself. What did you learn in that process to get to that, that goal that you're currently at? And then you start, realizing, that should have been the more enjoyable part of the process, which is that journey, right? Everybody's, probably on the panel has heard that it's not that destination, it's the journey. So it's the same thing. The income is not what makes us happy. That is honestly just a byproduct, and it should be treated that way. So it's really about really serving others. So, and you're enjoying that journey and seeing other people around you grow, you're growing yourself. And if you kind of get the focus off of the money, I know we have to pay bills, that will come, but you more likely, if you're talking about that success that you've already, reached, and you start to control your finances, you're starting to understand financial education, that's shouldn't be a problem. Not, you're going to need to back up and go back and re-educate a little bit, but that's most likely not the problem at this point. It's just that you're focused so much on the money and you're always wanting more. That's where we're not enjoying the journey in that point, and really enjoying life and what we've learned, like you said, and all the people really that you start affecting and helping grow along the way with you. So really take the focus off of the money is what I would suggest, and really, focus on the processes and the things that you're doing in that entire journey, because that's what you're going to remember. And again, as long as you're hustling and you're doing the things, right, and enjoying it, that money's going to be a byproduct like crazy. Absolutely, like crazy.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. So don't focus on the money and the material accomplishment. Just live. Yes.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
So JD, this conference is about creating a fun-free and fulfilled life. With your bankruptcy experience, right, and with the pandemic around us, do you honestly believe that we can live through this? We can accomplish that freedom, that fulfillment?
Oh, of course. I mean, there's everything, I always tell everybody too, that no matter what is happening around you, there is always a blessing in anything that it's happening. I mean, I know, and it seems like, how can there be a blessing in somebody, a loved one close to you's death, or somebody battling cancer? But I guarantee it, if you look and you think about it hard enough, there's always going to be a blessing surrounded by. There's more time with that family member that you never had spent before, and now all of a sudden you get to actually know them, right? Even if they only have a short time to live. And that's an extreme. Everything else, there's always a blessing, even in this pandemic, right? There are things that are going to change from it. And if you're an opportunistic person and you're looking in a there are going to be things there that you will be able to capitalize on and help people with. And there's, again, that byproduct is going to be there. So I never look at anything in a negative way. There's just always something positive and always a blessing in everything there. Bankruptcy, like, again, people think, oh, that's horrible. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. If that wouldn't have happened, I would have been most likely stuck as a farmer, making a good salary, but still stuck in that rat race, living paycheck to paycheck, even at a high salary, because I didn't know how to use money, and just basically broke each into paycheck time or into payday, and that was not a comfortable way. That was very stressful. So if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be in the spot I am now, or maybe as fast. Maybe it took years for me to realize that. So yeah, they're absolutely blessing in anything. Just got to find it.
Awesome. So when we're done and out and we think this is it, look for that, we'll say that light at the end of the tunnel. Look for that blessing and let that get us out of the rut. Focus on it. All right, awesome. Stress is called the silent killer. They refer to stress as the silent killer, JD. Yes, it's positive and it's also negative. How do you identify with being stressed? How do you know when you are stressed and worried? What are the symptoms and the signs?
Yeah, and that takes, and that's a part of the journey that I've been going through right now, and the part of the development process, that because again, as you start gaining more responsibilities and multiple things are happening, that stress we're human, it's going to come. So what I honestly have been practicing on as of late of this last year in 2020 a lot is being able to recognize that. So we're going to go through it. We're human. There's no way that we can completely, we'd be machines if we could eliminate any of the stressful or the emotions that I call primal state emotions. Some of you guys may have heard of that stated that way. I use what's called a primal state and a powerful state of emotion. And and it comes through self-development. So it's not that you can completely eliminate, like I said, the emotions, but what we can all work on is how fast can we recognize that particular emotion that we're in. So really, you got primal states of emotion are going to be anything that just don't make you feel good. Are you stressed? Are you sad? Are you angry? There's always there's all those groups of ones that are going to make you not feel good. You can tell it feels in your gut. You chew on cuticles, fingers, like I told you I do the other day, and I get nervous and anxious. But it's how fast can I realize that, hey, JD, I'm stuck in this spot right now and it's not serving me. So it's how quick can I get myself back out and get onto those thought processes that bring me out into a powerful state. Because as I explained before to you, Carrie Ann, is that how often do you see yourself when you're in a negative or a primal state of emotion being creative? You don't, right? Think about it. Whenever you're anxious, you can't think clearly. Okay. But when you're in a positive or in a powerful state of emotion, that's when the creative things start clicking, right? So if you can recognize that you're not in that powerful state, how quick can I transition over, whether it's some meditation, again, I'll use meditation, breathing exercises, listening to certain types of music, get myself back into that powerful state. Just like maybe if you're driving, I don't listen to much radio because I'm typically doing audiobooks, but there's sometimes that I have to put music on, and some good music. It could be different types too, because I'll be able to recognize, what gets me just, feeling good, right? You feel like sometimes it's just, whether you're working out or you get in that type of emotion that helps you to work out, get through that, or same thing in a depressed mood, you move to some music or meditation, whatever it may be, and get in that powerful state. So it's really just understanding, self-recognizing, what's happening in my own head, being able to kind of step out of it and look at yourself from the outside in, right? And then start working on just how quickly can I transition over to that powerful state. Makes all the difference in the world.
Awesome. Awesome, JD. So just wrapping up, JD, that was quick. That was a quick session.
Sure.
You just ran through.
Yeah.
Right. So viewers, we have learned from JD that we need to read. We need to read. All right. We need to educate ourselves. All right. It's not about the money in life. All right. It's about helping others, giving of yourself the service. And we'll be mentioning that in every guest that we have speaking from morning. Service, serving others, loving, just loving. All right. Use stress in a useful way. Primal state, powerful state. All right. What state are you in? Readily identify it and see how best you can get out of it, snap out of it. Awesome. JD, quickly, for those who wish to follow you or participate in your work, how can they get access to your community?
Yeah, absolutely. And the easiest way right now, because again, I like to, I do a lot of coaching just for the sake of, helping and talking to people. I don't have programs and coaching things where we bring you in, which I think that's great when people have those programs or businesses do well. So I just, I love to have people reach out, and we brainstorm, and they can get me at, the address that you'll have that you can pass on, which is the either jd@newlifespan.com. Of course, you can find some of our businesses online, of course, on all the social media. New Lifespan, which is NULIFESPAN. You can also do the contact at jdgibsonauthor.com as well. Those are going to be the best way where you can just reach out directly to me. And yeah, we can jump on a mastermind or whatever somebody prefers, one-on-one. I'm here to help people grow. That's, like I said, that's where doors open.
Yes. So here you're invited to jump on a one-on-one with JD. He'll guide you.
Absolutely.
He'll help you to grow and stretch yourself. And I know he loves service. He loves serving. So be sure to use him. All right. You have something powerful to propel us into 2021. Give us that power word or phrase as something that we should think on for 2021 as we press forward.
Yeah, I would say, and I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and of course it's hard for me to come up with short phrases, but I remember though, after speaking to you, I was like, oh, there's one that I always use, and it's kind of I call it my 3 Ps basically. Just if you remember the 3 Ps: present, persistent, and passion. So present meaning always live in the present, right? Shouldn't be focusing on the past. I mean, that is never going to serve us, and that's just going to get you in that negative mindset in many cases. In the future, make our future by living in the present right now. And then persistence, of course, is just you've got to get after it. You've got to stay after it, and it's not unless you do those day-to-day routines and see those little baby steps that something's going to happen. And you see the big picture at the end. And then I think most important, and I usually say it with I'll just say, I usually say just, you've got to absolutely live with effing passion. I mean, and that's one thing I'm always, it's passion in everything you do. So the others are not gonna move very far, especially the persistence, unless there's that passion involved. So figure out what you like to do. I mean, even if you don't like to do anything, pick something and just get after it, be passionate about it. And before you know it, you're going to have changes. You're going to have doors open to you, relationships with new people. And then, like I said, that byproduct is going to make sure and take care of you.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, JD. Thank you for gracing us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All the best for 2021.
Awesome.
A lot of success.
Yes.
Thank you. Receive it
awesome.
indeed.
Thank you.
Here we go, my viewers. J.D. Gibson, the man who is going to guide you into hitting wealth and hitting mark with your money. So be sure to tap in. He's there for you to love on you and to just pour in.